Welcome to Embrace Your Sacred Self series. I'm Dany Lyne. I'm an intuitive, and for the last 20 years, I've been co-creating wellness and aligned manifestation with folks worldwide, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. In this series, I share with you juicy bits from the Energy Collective archive in the hopes to see you thrive. Join my YouTube channel to partake in this heartful buffet. So good evening, good morning. Welcome to all of you joining live. Your presence is so appreciated. Without you, I couldn't do this transmission. As you know, you're essential in this moment. And so Sri Yukteswar is coming in with such a strong, centered vibration of love, of heart-centered consciousness, of unwavering dedication to the healing of the heart and to the path that allows us to stay on track and to not only heal our hearts, but hone in our engines so that we can share that love consistently with ourselves and consistently with all other living beings. It's in moments like these that we have an opportunity to look at and observe very closely the power of hatred. He's showing me that the people who vote for hatred, the people who endorse hatred, all have hatreds already in their hearts. And that hatred is not just, a big hatred for the big bad guy or woman out there, but it's hatred for their mothers, for their fathers, for their stepfathers. It's hatred for their brothers and sisters. It's hatred for coworkers, for old bosses, for supervisors. It's hatred that is fermenting in their hearts and in all our hearts that fuels these moments in history where tides vote in favor of hatred. He says this is an amazing opportunity to understand that there is no place in the heart, however justified you think it is, for hatred to fester and for hatred to root in any way. Hatred is not safe. He's saying we all have stories about people that we feel justified to hate in our personal lives. And we all now have, for instance, a new, external political figure we can all somehow hate. Even more. And he's saying this is all about the exercise of honing in that power that you have to stand strong and in the vibration of love 24 hours a day. Anyone, and he's shown me a lot about my history in the last few hours, anyone who's been abused, anyone who's been oppressed, anyone who's been sexually abused, molested, enslaved, Anyone who's been enslaved in any way, anyone who's been hurt, understands that one of the first reactions to that onslaught is hatred. And there stems the problem. We can have compassion for that part of ourselves in that moment. In our hatred, we are embodying a kind of power. We're like, I can't stop this abuse, but the one thing I can do is hate you. It's a last recourse. I've seen this so much in my work. It's not a question of it being a sin or anything. It's to understand where it comes from and to understand then that the process of healing is fundamentally necessary, right? To break the cycle of hatred, to break the cycle of violence. So this moment is really, right, it's like you can't just sit and look at and say there's something horrible happening out there and then pointing fingers out there and self-righteously sitting on our chair feeling separate from it and gratefully separate from it in a sense of, well, that's not me. I'm not in this. He's saying we're all in it in our hearts. We all have work to do to clean up our hearts and to ensure that we're doing the work to release from our hearts any kind of hatred and resentment and low frequency that's in that zone, including jealousy and whatnot, right? Any of those things, just know that that is what makes you vulnerable, right, to propaganda such as this. It's that stuff in our hearts that blurs people's vision and allows, right, for dictators and for people with that kind of oppressive and power over others mentality to be in power. I remember when he's showing me and he's reminding me of something he was reminding me of this morning, is at some point when I was in the thick of healing from sexual abuse and in the thick of having memories, and you know, anybody who's been in that healing process understands what I'm talking about, right? When you're in the thick of it, there was an image that came to me at one point, and it's relevant right now. And to this morning, and to this evening for you. And I realized I felt like a body standing on the edge of the ocean. And waves, huge waves would come crashing in. And those were in the form of memories where I was reliving my abuse. And then, you know, I'd go into the undertow and I'd get lost in the undertow of all the emotions and the pain and the suffering. And eventually I'd get spit back out on the beach, you know, and land on my stomach flat on the beach and catch my breath. And then there was the work of standing back up. And standing back up and facing the ocean, knowing there would be another wave. In this case, in that particular situation, it was my own history that was playing itself out. But he says that's what we're all in all the time. And when we face that ocean, and we are anchored in the work of the heart and the heart consciousness, the wave will come and you'll be slapped around, but you will bounce back standing. You will be rooted and you will be anchored and you will be strong in your love and strong in your orientation and strong in your willpower to remain oriented and to remain the observer and to use every opportunity to increase your connection to the love. He's saying where it gets tricky is where if we're standing there facing the ocean and we're in fear. Also, not just hatred, but fear. And hatred and fear are very closely linked. And he's saying for as long as those two things are hooked in, you can be swept into the undertow. So there's something about understanding the power of love and the power of that orientation and clarity in your heart. The power of doing all that work so that you are letting go of fear and anger and hatred toward oppressors. That's what's going to create the strength to be in the wave, get slapped around a bit, and stay standing. And stay standing for you, for all your loved ones, and ultimately for humanity. Situations like this where we're looking at votes and counting numbers and things makes it so obvious, he says, that the work is still individual. That big moments like this in history are created by one vote at a time, therefore one person at a time. And that tells you how important it is for each one of us to stay oriented and stay focused and be really honest about what's going on in our hearts. And he says that it's so important to let go of anything that you think justifies your hatred. Because if you justify your hatred to so-and-so, to so-and-so, to so-and-so, you're easily going to justify also your hatred in situations like this and be swept up in a justification for hatred. It's quite a thing, right, to meet all of the opportunities that we have on a personal level. And I my mother is a whole plot in itself, in herself. And, and it's only, I was sharing that in the One Heart when on Halloween I realized, oh, wait a minute. This is the perfect opportunity for me to figure out how to get back to, because she'd been in the doghouse in my heart for a few months now. And I knew I had to keep working at it, but it just really is very recently that I was able to turn that around again and to hold space. To hold space for her disorientation. And so to hold space for the disorientation of people who are caught up in a web of criminality and hatred and what have you. So he's saying when you're standing there on the beach and you're watching those waves come in, you're observing and you have the perfect opportunity to be reminded why your work is so important and why the work is so important. And whatever it is, however you're manifesting that in your life, whatever that process is of healing your heart and allowing for you to sit in a place where there's peace, which includes all those folks from the past who might have hurt you. And it's not like, forgiveness as in forgetting, right? There's so much forgiveness that is about forgetting, and it's a really tricky, can lead to a lot of dissociation and a lot of, I'm over it, and people haven't done their work at all. But we're talking about, and there's a lot, I think, of misunderstanding of what forgiving means. But the experience that I live and that I'm constantly reminded of with my parents, it's just to allow to be in the space with them as they are and with me in the love. To allow that to coexist. So it's not an us and them, we're in it together, the whole mess of it. The most oriented folks and the least oriented folks. And it's that thing about love being a place of stability, of holding it all. And it's in the holding it all that it allows you to heal that much more. And to be stronger and stronger in your heart, stronger and stronger in your level of orientation, and therefore then stronger and stronger in terms of your heart song, in terms of your genius, in terms of your service. So when we are in a position like this, it is a time where one realizes how important the heart song is, right? How important it is for you to be doing your thing and to be present in the world in your way that is unique to you, that is an experiential embodiment of love, and also how you're sharing that with others around you. The more we do that, the more we embrace that part in ourselves, the more we work against the tide of one vote at a time endorsing hate. So he's saying it's now more than ever, you're actually more powerful today than you were yesterday. Not less. You're more relevant today than you were yesterday. Your voice is more important and more needed than ever, right, in terms of this period in history. So that there's a level of relevance to each one of us that in situations like this, we get to observe that and to really appreciate that. And to understand what it means to stand in truth. And that means being really truthful in terms of your own ecology, so that you're really clear and know how to sit in the circle with it all. So he's really pointing to the unity at the core of it and transcending all our perpetrator versus victim polarization. This is polarization in action. It's not pretty. And there's nothing, again, that should justify polarization. Right? Polarization is the birthplace of hatred. So, right, how much of our understanding and logic of the world is actually a whole bunch of polarizations? Right? Our cosmography of the world, how much of it is based on polarization? It's in moments like this that we get to see the ugly of polarization. So it's an amazing opportunity and a reminder, right, to really look at our cosmography and how we've built the world, even between good and evil and all of it, and where all that stems from. And you can imagine in our DNA, in our bones, in our cells and molecules, like even just with the people in the circle right now, how many wars do we go back to between ourselves? How many genocides are we actually connected to? We're all in it. You don't need a lot of people in a room to touch those big cataclysms in history, right? Whether it's through ancestors or whether it's through past lives, which are all happening concurrently, but just the language of the past life, of the connection to being in a place, right? In another place and time or another capsule of reality that we call history. Like, think of how much of that we are connected to and how much of that we're connected to where we actually don't know which side of the bloody equation we were on. Right? That leaving behind that self-assuredness, right? That you're the good person and then the big bad is out there. That is polarization in and of itself. Because then you're not engaged in the undoing, active undoing of us and them in whatever way you've constructed that and however way it's been constructed for you through systemic, cultural, religious, historical contexts. So he's saying that these moments like this and all the emotions they bring up and, the twirl of triggers that also it brings up and all of it, right? Because we're all projecting some of our personal history on this moment as well. Easy to do as a woman right now, for instance, etc., right? So we're all projecting stuff onto this. And it's to be really conscious of what you're projecting and to become aware of it and know that that's your work. And that's what counts. And that's what's so important. And it's what's so beautiful. I have a new friend here, a beautiful woman. She's 73 years old. She's an American. She's in a white body. And somewhere in middle America in the late 60s, for some reason, she decided to join all the marches with the black folks in her community and has suffered immensely because the neighbors, the people at school rejected her because she would march with the black folks. And we still don't know, we keep talking about it, why her mother let her do that, because it was actually really dangerous for her to do that. All the black people in the marches were in danger, and including her. And yet she's the most beautiful, strong person I've met in a long time. And all she did was stay strong in her heart and align with her heart and put her foot in front of the other based on her heart. It's shaped her entire life. And she's worked as a therapist with schizophrenics in environments that were unbelievably challenging. And she just talks about it like she was like, oh, I loved it. I just loved everyone. That's all I did all day. I just made sure everyone was loved and that I just was in the love in that environment. It's the most beautiful. It's some of the best memories of my life. And at 73, she's out there and it shows, right? All those choices and how she walked through life, it shows. And she's having a bad morning. As an American, she's really not in a good place. I mean, in a good place in her heart, but she is concerned, of course. But it's so interesting to witness through a lifetime and to witness when you put your foot in front of the other and aligned with love, it does add up and you are a force in the world. And you have made a difference. It's impossible to walk around with a heart that is capable of loving and is capable of holding it all without making a difference. What Sri Yukteswar is saying is, you build the ocean one drop at a time. So for every drop that you put in that is coming from the heart, you are strengthening the ocean of love. You are strengthening that web. And you're allowing yourself and giving yourself an opportunity to act with integrity, with clarity, and with, I will call it, brutal honesty about your own thoughts. Because he's saying, right, when it's the thoughts, if you're thinking all sorts of thoughts and there's hatred built into those thoughts, there's an energy there that you're building that will come out in one form or another. That's not going to be great for you, but it won't be great for people around you either. So he says you're always, right, when you're looking at your thoughts with brutal honesty, and I'm sorry for radical honesty. Sorry, brutal's a bit too brutal, but radical honesty, right? He's saying that then you're always making sure that your soil is fertile for that love to grow and blossom. Those are like, he's going back to the sacred tree image right now, and he says, we keep talking about the tree and the roots and the blah, blah, but he says we don't talk about the gardener and how the gardener maintains the soil as well and cares about the soil health. And so he's saying that the thoughts are what fertilizes that soil. But if the love thoughts, if you want, fertilize, But if you are in some way harboring some thoughts that are based on polarization and us and them, you are weakening that soil, and then that's what you're drawing from for your tree. And there is this thing that we are responsible gardeners for our trees, but the more we take care of our tree and nourish our soil, the more we will be part of a healthy forest. We will be one tree that's healthy in the, that's going to maybe support a lot of other trees in the forest. We're creating the forest and the web of life. And he says that's really, really powerful. And he says in moments like this, some people's heart song will be, he's showing me a kind of Joan of Arc character. Some people's heart song is that of the activist, that of the outspoken political commenter or whatever. And somebody else will come through with a poem. And right, it's like the language of resistance, if you want. The language is very broad, and all of it's valid and all of it's important, because that's part of the fabric of the forest. So in a moment like this, if it, for whatever reason, right, in your life, you're getting a sense of a go-ahead for an embodiment of your heart song in one way or another, you're part of this tide. You're part of this moment. Because it's not just the election in the United States. It's a whole, right, global, energetic flow that's happening. This is just one expression of it. But really honor within yourself the whoosh that's happening for you to step into your heart song with clarity, with a profound respect for where that comes from. That heart song isn't you personally. That heart song is coming through you. And let it move through you and let it express through you. Really honor that isn't just you. It's this beautiful energy that's coming through you, and the question is, how do you step in so that you're more at ease with letting it flow through you? What's that work for you? And then that's how you're here right now. And how much it matters that whatever healing is available to you right now, that you let it move through you. So whatever, right, is coming through for you, that is allowing, right, and sort of encouraging your tree to be healthier and healthier and stronger and that much more connected to your core self. That's the work. Because that's your way of moving toward orientation. And you can see, right, how dangerous disorientation is, and then how it manifests politically and nationally, etc. So don't underestimate the value of your own orientation and whatever that process is for you. It is relevant to this moment. That's what it's about. Right? You're getting rid of cobwebs, you're getting rid of white noise, you're getting rid of old imprints, you're clearing intergenerational trauma, you're clearing, right, intergenerational and cultural biases, you're clearing unconscious biases, you're doing that stuff. Deconstructing all of that so that you can be this clear channel. And be with people. And be with other living beings. And experience joy and love and kindness and enthusiasm and wonder. Every moment in the wow right now is an act of defiance. And so what's your wow? And allow that wow to speak. I'm Jess, I know you're just launching a book. I mean, that's your wow, and congratulations, by the way. And folks, she'll be posting you're posting everything in One Heart, right? You'll keep us informed. And I think it's so important for all of us to encourage each other in our wow and in our steps and the steps that we're taking to embody. Words are so insufficient. To embody the strength of the life force itself. So it's not, our strength and it's to allow this vessel to experientially express the power of the life force, of life itself. And to embody in this moment that capacity to observe and to sit with it all is so important. And it allows us to transcend the habit of polarization, of pointing out there, of creating an us and them. Just think how much we're going to have to exercise that muscle every time we turn on anything resembling media. I mean, we can look at things, in terms of the pandemic and how quickly we polarized. I mean, I was shocked that Canada could be so polarized. I had this innocent idea of Canada at the time. And the polarization was not pretty. And certainly as someone who worked with people who were estranged from their families for one reason or another, et cetera, right? it's not like we're immune to it. We all did it. And we have that as an experience to pull from in this moment. And let's not make another pandemic polarization situation out of it. Right? And so he's saying we have to learn from all these moments and opportunities to be polarized. And that's the work, and it's like really juicy right now, essentially. You're going to have to chew on that every day. And just remember that that chewing is what is strengthening your compassion and strengthening your capacity to hold space for all. And so for anyone who has gone through a major healing process, just in terms of healing from abuse, from any relationship where there might have been verbal abuse and gaslighting, right? For all the situations in which we feel empowered and we have an enemy that we can focus on, right? This is a reminder for all of that. This is going to be a trigger for all of that every day. So he says in that sense, it's actually quite, you can say, beautiful, in the sense that it is a beautiful opportunity to clean up our acts, basically. And to really see where that duality keeps coming in and coming in and coming in as a force organizing principle for our interpretation of reality. So to conclude, he's saying it's really a beautiful opportunity to repair our engines of interpretation of the world and to really look at all our thoughts and that whole engine that we often don't question, but to question that engine itself, which churns out polarization and duality on a minute-to-minute basis. And, to say, like to love everyone is to love everyone is a bit of a, it's a tall order. But he's saying it's really right now to hold space, to be with. Not to be against, but to be with. Just to be with. He says he feels that's a bit more like we can all work on just being in the same room. And letting everybody be in the circle that you're thinking of as your circle. It's just the circle. I hope my voice hasn't been too strong. It's just the energy's so strong. Because there's so much love behind the words, so I don't know how it's sounding, but it's like love on turbo right now, so it's the power of love rather than, it's not a Hallmark card that's coming through here, so it's not mushy, it's the greatest strength of alignment and personal power and sovereignty and profound respect for the process of life itself and all its expressions. And when, for me, and on my personal level, just with the cosmography of my parents, they give me the perfect arena to practice. And it's just, every morning it's like, and there you are. There you are. And letting that be. with respect and with love, letting that be. There you are. Yeah. So many blessings. Big hug. So much respect for all of you. So much gratitude for this opportunity, for this circle. So much gratitude for the community that is the collective, for the community which is the broader community that I have over the years have had the greatest opportunity to meet all of you, to be with all of you, to be in presence with you is the best possible thing. Thank you.